I'm at 1113 Devon Avenue in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, essentially anything that would be of concern to the buyer. Our access is the base of the stack is cast iron, and we have some replaced PVC above that for the, there's been some plumbing changes, but it should be cast iron under the floor and most likely switch to clay when it gets outside. This is in like the center of the basement. It's behind a little like a temporary wall, like a movable wall. You can see this is the inside of it, so you have to slide it out of the way to be able to get access to it. But just a little wall to hide the pipes but still give you access, which I thought was a really good idea. So it is cast iron. Start under the floor here. I believe this goes out the rear, but I'm not 100% on that. Cast iron is it's a decent material. It lasts a long time, but you don't really have a known life expectancy on it. They say roughly 75 years from installation, but it's kind of hard to tell because you can't really see how thin or thick the pipe walls are. And basically what we're looking for is any structural issues or obvious holes. This line actually looks pretty good from what I can see here. We'll try to maybe run some water to clear the lens off a little bit. The line, cast iron does have a tendency to collect like soft clogs a little more often just because of how rough the interior of the pipe wall gets. When it rusts, obviously it gets rough, so things hang up on a little easier. And so I always recommend to not use wet wipes in general, but it's a lot more important for cast iron just because you don't want any of that backup. Because if it does catch, it won't break down like toilet paper, so it tends to cause a little more frequent soft clogs, which are just like toilet paper and stuff building up in there is what a soft clog is. Stuff that's it's easily removed. It's not structural, but it can happen more frequently with cast iron just due to the pipe material. So yeah, so far that looked really good. We'll get a better look at it on the way back. We've switched over to PVC, which had to have been a repair at some point. And it looks like we're going back into cast iron. So they must have added a fixture or something, and that's what that was for. And so it is also a lot easier to see on the pullback, just due to the fact that it's, you know, when you're pushing out, you're pushing things up in front of the camera. So it's like we just left the house here, and it does switch over just past the foundation. It looks like it does switch over to clay, which is normal. And so it doesn't take much to oh man, the camera lens is only about half an inch off the bottom of the pipe, so it doesn't take a whole lot to get the water over it. And I'm just trying to rinse off the camera now. I'm trying to get stuff off of here. We got some debris on the front of the camera, and I'd hate to have to go all the way back for that. Sometimes it'll come right off, but for some reason this does not come up. So we'll try to get it off as I keep pushing here. I think it just did come off there. So we may end up having to try to put a standoff on the camera. It seems like there's just barely water hanging up, just high enough to get over the camera lens.
Looks like we do have some root intrusion. That is about the most common thing we see with clay lines. It's very, very common. It's probably 80 to 90% of all the clay lines I inspect have root intrusion. And it looks like this is no different. A little bit of grease buildup there at the bottom of the pipe. Nothing of any concern, but anyway, we'll push all the way out. I'll try to rinse the camera off, and then hopefully we'll be able to pull back and see the whole time and not have to well, I'm trying to put a standoff on the camera. So it does look like the sewer main here. We've already made it there, but it's pretty close to the flow line. A lot of times they bring these taps in higher, like above. If you're, comparing it to a clock, and you're looking down, a lot of times they'll bring it in at, like 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock on the pipe, so you're bringing it in at the top at an angle. But sometimes they do this where they kind of bring it in at the flow line, which is just, you have more water build up right there at the tap. As you can see, it's really close to that flow line. And so the line is draining a little bit, which I may give it a minute and see if that actually helps our situation as far as being able to see when I pull back. But the line looked good structurally. I only saw one spot with a lot of heavy root intrusion, and it wasn't down in the flow line, so it wasn't obstructing the flow. But it is something that would require some maintenance, most likely in the future. But I'm hoping that maybe that's what was holding some of that water, and that I poked a hole in that, or just kind of pushed it out of the way a little bit to allow a little more of the water to flow. So I'm going to try to let that sit for a minute. But yeah, structurally, the line looked pretty good. Didn't see any kind of major damage. More major concern, I should say. There was definitely no major damage. And so the flatness of the line, probably up close to the high end of the, or the top end of the sewer main. And so the line came out from the basement pretty flat. Minimum pitch is only like 1 degree, so it's 1/8 of an inch per foot. So that's a foot of drop for every 96 feet of pipe length, and so that's roughly 100 feet, and so it's a little less than 1%, but not much, or a little more than 1%. But it's the line structurally looks really good. Just need to do some maintenance there. Probably the biggest thing is most likely will require maintenance here on the roots. As you can see, that's the biggest spot right here, 50 feet, and I think that's what's draining. Is if I kind of hold that open, it should drain down a little bit, and that's, I think, what was. And so it should. Going to recommend that the line either be cleaned or at least treated with some Rudex or something, but usually a cleaning is the best bet. Just trying to hold this open and try to let this drain down a little bit. You can still see above that water line, but it helps if we can kind of, because as you can tell, that the roots are already kind of holding some water in there, or allowing it to hold water in this spot because it's just holding back a little bit. And so you want to be able to try to see that. If I keep moving it back and forth and trying to get some of this water out of there, we might be able to see it a little better at this spot. Looks like we're going a little bit there. But yeah, so 50 feet, we got some root intrusion. It's holding back a little bit of water. You can see it's not much water, but it's a pretty minor belly also. So belly between like 48 and 50, 47 and 50. One section of pipe, and it's not anything major. It's only, like I said, it's less than an inch, so it's not really much of a problem. It's probably been there, like I said, the line is really flat, and so I'm sure this has been this way since the pipe was installed. You can just see how there's about a ½ inch of water here for a decent length of pipe. Like the line is just flat. Well, we may end up having to try to put a star on this or something, a little standoff, so that we can actually see above that little bit of water there from about 37 to 50 feet. Good news is the only root intrusion we've really seen was at that 50-foot mark. It was getting fairly heavy, but you just see the line is just pretty flat. The cast iron looks really good on the inside, and so we just have that small area from about 37 feet to 50 feet that has a belly, a very, very minor belly, just more along the lines of the fact that the line is pretty flat in general. And then we have the roots again at 50 feet. So I am going to pause the video here. We're getting back and pulling out of the clean out. I'm going to go get a small standoff, see if we can just hold the camera up just a little bit so we can see above that belly at about that roughly 35 to 50 feet, so we can see above that. So again, I'm going to pause the video and go get that. Alright, put a little standoff on the front of the camera. Hopefully that should be enough to hold it up above the water. Can't really fit too big of a standoff in here just due to the size of the access here, but this should work out pretty well. Keep the stuff off the front of the camera. But of course, since there should be some water buildup around. There we go. So if we need to, and be able to run some water. This is mainly just to get a look at some of this stuff in here. And so there is a belly. It does seem to be holding some debris. Just where it's settling. We are at 38 feet. The roots are right around here. See, it's got a decent sized belly. And here should be the root ball. Try to knock some of this away, but looks like we actually have a belly from this 50-foot mark. And so I'm going to actually pause the video. I'm going to get a locate. I'm going to mark where the end of this is and then the beginning of it. Mainly, you got a couple bellies holding a little bit of debris. This last one here, from like 35 to 50, doesn't seem like it's holding a lot of debris. But the one further up, it seemed like there was some solids starting to build up in there, which could indicate that the line is leaching. I don't know how long it's been since how long the line's been, or the house has been vacant, but yeah, we're gonna pause the video. We're gonna mark this, and we're also gonna mark the stuff further upstream. All right, so this is right by the edge of the driveway. I put a green flag there and moved a couple of green dots, but it's 8'3" to the invert. Like I said, this is probably holding a little bit of water because of the roots, but there is obviously a belly here. And we'll take a look at let's see about where the end of the belly is. You can see that's where the bottom of the belly kind of hits. That's about half the pipe diameter, so it's probably pretty close to a 2-inch belly, and it's fairly long. See, this is the worst part. There. A couple sections of pipe here. Looks like we're coming back out of the belly. Looks like the belly starts right around here. Looks like we got pretty good pitch here, but it's starting to build up where this dropped. You probably have to come back. So it starts about right here at 37 feet. I'm going to take a look at this because that may be the beginning of the belly in general. But I thought there was another one further back that was holding more stuff here. Yeah. So I'm going to recommend that you contact or consult a licensed plumber for this repair, or I should say for their evaluation. Like I said, a lot of times bellies aren't anything catastrophic. As long as they're lower on the downstream side than they are on the upstream side, it'll overtake it. As long as the line's not leaking, which would basically what that does is if the water's leaching out too much, then it causes a kind of dries out the inside of the pipe and then leaves solids beached in the center that can cause those can cause backups. So I'm going to mark this spot here as the beginning of the belly, and then we'll pull back and take a look at that other one that was holding a lot more solids, and I think that may be leaching out a little bit into the ground. So I'm going to pause the video and get another locate. Alright, so we marked this also. This is 8'3" deep to the invert. This is the beginning of the belly. And then I know there's that other belly that begins right around 30 feet, I believe. Yeah, right at that connection. Probably a good place to start at about 33 feet, but the actual heavy belly right around in here. Let's say it probably starts right around here, and you can see the buildup of debris and stuff along the bottom of the pipe. And that would be my concern, is that it would be, if the line is leaching out and into the ground, again, it'll dry out and just cause a backup. And so I'm going to recommend this be, again, referred to a licensed plumber, but I'm also going to get this give them as much information as possible as far as if they recommend repair, then. But at this point, you're getting to be, I mean, the whole line is just flat. So you can try to clean it and see if it, let's say starting at this connection here at about 33 feet, so you're not really far from the other one. But I'm going to pause the video and get another locate. Alright, and this is only a couple feet from the other one, so I mean there may be an option, you know, maybe lining could be an option. Obviously that's up to the evaluation of the plumber, but you can see the buildup there, and that would be my concern, is just the buildup of solids in that belly. Even though lining won't get rid of the belly, sometimes it smooths out the pipe, but you can see this is even here, this is at least another 2-inch belly and half the pipe on a 4-inch pipe. But like this part in through here, there's something that can't be seen because there's such buildup here. And you could try cleaning it and see if there's something that's creating this backup of, if there's something that's some solid that's down there at the bottom of the pipe that's creating the backup of water, because it seems like I'm hitting something right here and it's forcing my camera up. You can notice that. So there may be something that's damming up the water here at 24 feet. And so you could always try a cleaning first, because it's right there at the transition from the cast iron to the clay, and then right after that we go into that belly, and then it's got that big beach spot. So there could be roots there that we can't see because it's covered with that. And I'm trying to move my camera back and forth here to see if we can kind of maybe create a channel or something, if it is a soft. Now it's starting to look like roots based off of what I'm seeing. There could be root intrusion at the bottom of the pipe that's building up and holding all this water. But I'm going to mark it right there because it's obviously this is the transition, and so I'm going to mark right at the transition, and that would be, it's roughly from the house to the sidewalk. It's holding a lot of water, and so again, we're going to recommend that they be evaluated by a licensed plumber, but we're going to get this last locate and finish up. Alright, so this is 7'8", so it's basically starts at 7'8" by the street, ends at around 8'1", I believe, out by the sidewalk. So the whole line is really flat, and so I think that's probably a big reason why just that little bit of belly is causing the solids to build up, and then you have a little bit of root intrusion. I believe it's the one at 50 feet is the one that's visible, but it seems to me that underneath that that spot at about 24 feet, there's also some roots coming in the bottom, and that's what's causing the damming of the water in that area. But I can't tell, obviously, because of the water buildup in that area. The cast iron looks like it's in pretty good shape, and the looks like there's a clean out in the, well, actually it's probably the toilet in the front of the basement. But yeah, all the interior piping looks good. Just had some issues with that exterior piping just being really flat. And that little bit of a belly is causing a buildup of solids and stuff in that area. And so again, you could try cleaning it first, but I'm going to recommend that this be referred to a licensed plumber for evaluation of the video in the area, just to see what their evaluation is on the severity of the belly in the area, and what they would recommend as far as how to remedy the situation. But yeah, the biggest issues are at the bellies and the flatness all the way out, but there are some roots at 50 feet that would have to be cleaned, and also I believe at 24 feet it just, not visible. So again, recommending that this be evaluated by a licensed plumber. So that'll end the inspection at 1113 Devon Avenue in Dayton, Ohio.